Well, that's what yeah, where we're at. Oh,
We sure could use some Stettler. I think there's only way in. This is the biggest population area. We got this representation. So I mean, there's only, and that's
yeah, no, I know.
only so much.
Okay, I'll second on that.
But
Bye bye.
okay, everybody, I think we should rock and roll here. Justin is coming in today. It's 10:03. I'll call this meeting to order. And looking at the agenda, we have quite a few additions. If you want to update your agendas, you'll probably see that the delegation won't be in today. They're not going to be able to make it. 7.1, we're adding animal control bylaw. On 8.3, we're going to add requests for letter of support. 8.4, we're adding Battle River research funding. And then you'll see in our starting at 9.18, these are all responsive to Bill C-293 and 918 is from Cypress County. 919 is Alberta Service Board Provincial Committee. 920, Municipal District of Fairview. 921, Brazeau County. 922, County of Warner. 923, Lesser Slave Lake. 924, County of Northern Lights. 925, Municipal District of Bonnyville. 926, County of St. Paul. 927, Northern Sunrise County. And we're also adding on the 11.1, Central Region ASB Provincial Report from Brendan Knight. And I think that's all the ones I have. Are there any further additions to the agenda? Mr. Coleman? Yeah, I put that one's in.
I'll give you a motion to move those forward with the agenda additions as noted.
Okay, thank you, James. All in favor? And carried. So I guess we'll move right into 5.1, the Agriculture Service Board Administration Report on page 8. And Quentin and Farah, if you take this one.
Thank you. So just been working on some administrative letter writing correspondence with CP Rail. Drafted a rural mental health letter. Working on our ASB grant, which is due to be renewed January 1 for another 5-year term. Completing some training. So Farah did some training on beaver dam removal and environmental farm plan technician. We have submitted a renewal license for our dynamite mag, just all the administrative stuff we do over the winter time, really. Attended 2 AAAF executive meetings and an Agriculture Service Board Provincial Committee meeting on behalf of the AAAF. So with that meeting, I sat with Minister Segerson along with our provincial committee to discuss our top 3 topics of resolutions that we voted on at the regional conference. Brendan Knight has a report that kind of outlines that a little more, so we'll wait for that. Attended the fall ASB town hall meeting with ADM John Conrad. He wasn't actually there. He got called off with the premier last minute, but we still went through some hot topics with his team. Assisted with completing the health and safety audit for County of Barrhead, and inputted some inventory and records for improving tracking and management. We've been working on some workshops and events coming up. So mental health workshop, ladies livestock, agronomy update, and a horticulture and gardening workshop. Those are all getting close to being planned laid out. We hosted environmental farm plan workshop. We tried to host an environmental farm emergency plan workshop. Wasn't a lot of interest to do an actual workshop, so we're just going to advertise for some one-on-one training. See if someone's interested in creating a plan for their farm. Winterize some equipment. Continuing to address some breakdown issues with C91. That's our large four-wheel drive tractor we use for mowing brush sites. We are working on our new Raven system. So our spray system's arrived, and we've been working with our mechanics on placing the system, getting everything ready for tie down. So our deck is now complete. It'll get sent off for painting, and then we'll start to put together. So it's exciting. It's very close to being done. Environmental initiatives. We conducted a few inspections. Nevis Rail Yard. We did some inspections on a soil erosion project, which we also mitigated. So we'll see how that looks over the next year and a half, 2 years. Conducted some tree health assessments for a landowner. Addressed foxtail barley control on 2 county sites, one being in this yard and a little more outside the fence at Botha Lagoon. Monitored seeding projects. So we've got a few projects we seeded this fall, just watching to see how the seed doesn't erode, make sure everything's in place for spring. We continue to address or conduct drone inspections of our gravel pits. So lately we're at Shock Pit because that's where they're crushing. And we've inspected gravel sites again, our gravel pits, sorry, for weed control, making sure we're on top of things for spring. Investigated egg plastic spread in the field, and our chemical jugs are all collected from our transfer sites for Curtis Construction to haul out.
Quentin, can you expand on the egg plastics spread in the field? What was that one?
Somebody was spreading some manure, and there were some chunks of either grain bag or just chunks that were in with the manure.
Oh, I see.
So it was an issue that was spotted, so we just did some inspections to see how much there was.
Okay.
How much was there?
Not a bunch, like a couple guys would spend probably, I don't know, what do you think, Vera? A couple, 3 hours maybe picking up the chunks.
Yeah, it was fairly scattered, but never really dense, and there's quite a few small pieces. There's pictures to come. You wanted to see some of it.
I got a couple of questions. So thank you. Then the report done on the Nevis rail yard was phenomenal. I just want to say both from all the departments that did it. Just could you highlight a little bit more of what you saw as the big issues that were there from your standpoint? Because I know you talked about doing some soil in the letter. I read the letter, but I did not. I was. I'm not sure we had the technical findings that you talked about.
So I guess the Coles Notes version on the agriculture letter addresses the slope of the land. The fact that there was, I can't remember how many wells in a mile radius, 7?
I just took the reports from 10, but there was, everyone in Nevis is on a well, they're not on the water line. So that, and then the sandy soil and the wells aren't that deep. So if that creosote gets in there, there's risk for contamination there.
Did you do the 2 wells that are just south of that? Like if you drive through their yard, there is an actual house in there.
I did like a 1 mile around
Okay.
the site, so
Okay.
wherever there's drilling reports on that Alberta Drilling Report website, so.
Maybe they may not. They were there.
Yeah.
They've been a long time there. So.
Yeah.
Just if I could,
Yeah.
did you do actual soil samples?
Just the compilations off of the drilling reports.
Okay, fair enough. That's all I was wondering. I didn't know if there had been.
To add to that little piece right there.
Okay.
Just on the wells though, the lady that lived directly south, there used to be the loading facility there and there was a well there.
Mrs. Hamilton.
When they shut that facility down, I believe she tied into that well. So it's very close to where that is. That was all, it would have been registered to be.
Ernie?
So is the NRCB involved in something like this?
No, I don't
Not agriculture.
think. Well, no, this is not agriculture. This would, see, rail is all, they're under their whole entire under act. They're under different, like, they have their own police force, they have their own, they got some skookum rules way back, dating back before Confederation kind of thing, so.
The reason I bring it up is, say, like when one farming identity was building a lagoon, the NRCB was involved with it, and there was a sand, they were building a corner of the lagoon into a sand, and they just thought that the liner was going to be adequate. So the NRCB overruled ourselves. So like, to what point do some of these bodies take into consideration the water wells?
Well, I don't even think that's a consideration for these guys. They're a dollar and cents operation, and they operate under, really the only way you deal with the rail yards or the railways is through public pressure, because I don't even think the government can put pressure on them. Like, they are very, they have a lot of power. They have a lot of power. So, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And do we do any follow-up on it?
We're waiting for correspondence back.
No, but I mean, as far as, have we notified the people in Nevis and those two wells that they should monitor their wells or not?
Not yet, no.
Okay. I wondered if that's something that we should be doing, because, I mean, good communication is something that, if we've noticed it, I know the people that have conversed to me about it are in Nevis, and I think they are watching their wells, but they're taking a sample to the health clinic regularly, so.
Mr. Chairman, we did receive a response from CPKC that one of their directors is reaching out to the county and the supplemental. Closer to your microphone, just Christine. We did receive a response through their Connects line that CPKC, one of their directors, is going to connect with the county in this upcoming week. So that's further than we felt we'd get.
Well, that's good.
We better wait.
Yeah, and then I think that goes to the response that we put forward. The county did when they did it. They did a very good.
It was well detailed, I
It
think.
was 100%. I was very impressed.
And I would think it was be quite concerning. So I'm glad it got their attention.
And I am a little disappointed again with the news media not picking up on that. That's one that I would think it should have been picked up a little bit more on. Anyway,
Well, kudos to Farah, because she did most of the work on the egg letter for that one, including the inspection itself.
I had to fly around in the drone, so I'm not complaining.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, one other question.
Go ahead.
Kochia, is it noxious in our area?
No.
Obnoxious or noxious?
I just noticed coming into town that there's a certain slough just on the outside of Stettler, which is bordering the town of Stettler, that there's a whole whack of, and they're tumbleweeds, right? That's what they are, it's kochia. So I've heard that there's some kochia in southern Alberta that now is glyphosate resistant. So that may be something to keep an eye on. So.
There's also group,
Most likely glyphosate resistant here as well.
You haven't seen it. I haven't seen it that much here, but that's an odd, when you start seeing the big, and they're big, like they're 3-foot tumbleweeds, so knock a small child over, I'm sure. Just not used to it in our area.
Okay, Whitney, you can continue then with your report.
Well, that's pretty well all of the speaking notes I had, just some pictures to follow up on.
In your pictures, I was going to jump to the erosion control project. Where's that at?
That is at the intersection of Highway 12 and 11. If you went north, a quarter mile, a little better than a quarter mile north, up a back road. So some brushing happened to put a new fence line in, but the brushing was a little aggressive.
And the incline was fairly steep, it looks like.
Yeah, and where you see those socks, that's that's county land. So what we've done is we've placed some socks to slow the water,
Right.
so we don't have quite a.
So you get some growth established.
Further up, in the next picture down, you can see like two little brown spots, looks like a blanket, that's coconut matting. Those two spots are significantly steeper, so we really wanted to hold the grass seed in those two spots. So we'll see, we'll monitor over the next, hopefully year, if we get enough moisture, but most likely 2 years to establish some growth, keep the hill from sloughing.
And then they can be removed.
They'll break down.
They'll break down.
The socks will be removed, but the mats will just break down. In give or take a year, you won't even know the mats are there.
Okay. Ernie, so you're saying this was on county land, was it a right of way?
Yeah, there's a right of way there.
Be the road allowance, wouldn't it?
That's an allowance that goes up. So the picture, the aerial view, we would be facing southeast is up on that map. So to the north, if you follow the slope down, you go up the road a little bit, and there's one resident around that corner and one resident just back to the south a little bit.
That's a road that Dale Marshall lives on, just right across 11 or 12, I should say.
Are there any further questions for Quentin's report? If not, I'll ask for a mover. Paul?
That we accept for information.
Okay, thank you, Paul. All in favor? Carried. Now I'm going to go back to 3.1, the minutes. Skipped over them, so we need someone to approve the minutes from the October 24th meeting. Larry? Okay, all those in favor? And carried. Now moving to 5.2, the fall ADM and ASB Town Hall meeting report on page 19. That was a meeting that I was not able to attend. That was coincided with the FCSS provincial conference. So Quentin attended, and Farah, did you attend that one as well? Okay. So they'll highlight that for us.
Yeah, this was a Teams meeting. So Marcia Hewitt Fisher was the spokesperson, I guess, who represented John Conrad, ADM John Conrad. So they talked about the current grant cycle, how it's ending December 24, and the new 5-year cycle coming up, and that the grant application has extended the deadline from, I don't recall, was it December 20? Now it's the end of January. So they've given us an extra month to complete the process, which is good because it is a longer grant application than normal. They had spoke about the funding levels remaining unchanged. They hinted at some wild boar management. Alberta Pork Funding has 4 new professional contract trappers who are going to focus in the Northeast and Northwest. They spoke about 464 wild boars removed to date, and that there are some program improvements under consideration. They didn't give a lot of detail, but they talked about expect something good in the near future. I don't think
I don't think they use the word near future the same way we use it.
know.
Yeah, 'cause then
Fine.
In the future,
Imminent is a different word than we have.
yeah, that's pretty well all on wild boar. Agriculture plastic recycling, the pilot project continues until the end of December 2025. So we're hoping for a spring, fall review of this pilot project to see if it can extend its life, maybe go another 5 years. This pilot project was, if I remember, 7 years. I think it started in 2018 or 17. So we'll see how it goes. Some areas have definitely had some really good pickup on recycling plastics. we're just starting out here to get some ground moving, so it's coming. It's a behavioral change, right? So it does take some time. They addressed the rural veterinarian shortage. So the Dr. Keith Liam spoke about collaboration with some colleges and the universities and the government trying to get something in place. Talked about recent support. Talked about doubling the class size, which is huge. More students getting through, become vets. Doesn't mean they get a place somewhere to practice, but at least we have more students getting through.
If I may interject here, when we met with Minister Newdorf on Monday, Painter County had said that their county is supplying facilities for veterinarians. So that is another piece that maybe can be done locally to enhance attraction anyway down the road.
They're attracting locums too, but by the sounds of it, not full-time vets, but almost like in our emergency rooms and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill C-293. We spoke about this a bit, and Fair and I spoke about it again this morning, but like this is a bill that was presented 2 years ago, and it's just getting traction now. So they addressed the concerns raised by potential overreach. They talked about the concerns of the potential spread amongst livestock operations and what that means for producers. So your Ag Service Board Provincial Committee, which I'm not sure who all received that email, they have a draft template letter that they were asking municipalities to review. And so that's in our package. Western Crop Innovation Center, established in March of 2024. So they talked about a strategic plan and gaining some good ground. So it's just in the early stages. We'll see something over the next 2 years, hopefully, of establishment. CDC South out of Brooks is seeking a new model for their facility sustainability, exploring partnerships with non-government organizations, and collaboration with the County of Newell.
So I was talking to the Reeve of the County of Newell, and I think the County of Newell bought the facility. They were in the process of buying that facility completely, so.
Sounds like the partnership programs like that, so.
Yeah, I think they just outright bought it.
They're the landlord, I think.
That's a pretty old facility. We need some significant upkeep.
That's the one that we were out there a while back and they were growing potatoes and tomatoes on the same plant.
We summer toured there.
Long time ago.
Yeah, how long ago? That's
5 years ago, 6 years ago.
I was going to say 10,
Larry?
quite a while ago.
That's where the pheasant farm and everything's at too. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's one of the bigger ones. Yeah.
One of them, like we had offices we leased from the government at that point. So
There was a bit of discussion on highway signage for agriculture equipment. If you guys recall, which municipality? Barthead? Brazeau? There's been no response yet from Alberta Transportation, so ADM is continuing to advocate for this.
I wouldn't advocate.
The weed review committee members,
Which was that? Sorry.
The ag signage saying that they're putting so many signs for municipality telling motorists that it's an agricultural county to watch your machinery and stuff, but Like, there's not enough signs in the world to make people smart. I mean, really, I don't know. It's worth it.
Agno, so has received funding through SCAP for project deliverables. Paris should start speaking. Working on a separate application to secure operational funding. So speaking with Minister Segerson, he supports this program strongly, but he said, don't just come at agriculture for this funding. So he suggested that the provincial committee also address mental health and get funding through them as well. And this is a good time of year for that, as they're just starting to create the budget for April. So it's a good time to put.
And Dan Williams is a rural as well.
And that is something the county Stettler Ag Service Board has already done. They've already lobbied a letter to the Minister of Health on this. So we're a step ahead on this.
Minister of Health or Minister of Mental Health?
Mental.
Sorry, recovery, yeah, so Dan Williams.
Cooperative extension program. So industry partnerships are being explored to make it more of a 3P program, see how that flies. It's not getting good traction yet, but Minister Segerson also said to don't give up, keep pushing, that there should be something here. It's just, they're saying not now. They're not saying no forever on funding this project, so just keep pushing it. And they wanted to readdress that insect management specialist. There's a position open out of the Brooks CDC South. If somebody wants to work with Shelley Barkley. Yeah, those are kind of the highlights. I don't remember how long the meeting was, or about that.
Keep it tight to an hour.
There was a few questions.
Sometimes they run 2 hours from 10 to noon, but
This one was just 11 till noon.
That's when John Conrad does it.
Yeah, John's there, yeah. Okay. No, it's always good to have that interaction with the deputy minister for sure, even though he wasn't there in person this time. But- Okay, any other questions on that report? Not, I'll ask for a mover to accept it.
I'll give you that motion.
James, all in favor? And carried. Okay, there were no board's requests for any information. Business arising from the minutes, 7.1, animal control bylaw.
All right. Let me open that. All right, so we're just trying to get things nailed down as to what the direction from you guys is. So when we talk about this with the department heads, it's pretty well plug and play from our side of things. So we've talked a little bit about apiculture, the Bee Act, and beekeepers needing registration through their act. We have addressed insect farming involving breeding, rearing, and harvesting insects for animal feed, human consumption, pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and industry uses. So mass rearing facilities, we kind of defined that as a facility where insects are raised or bred for proteins or industry. We define outdoor swine operations. So basically where any property where swine or wild boar are reared primarily in a feedlot situation, pasture, or outside of a building or barn. We've defined swine. So we use the Latin term, means Sus scrofa domesticus, so commonly known as domestic pig, including potbelly pigs, because they're not Sus scrofa, but they fall into the term or definition as swine. So then we talk about license. We had to come up with some creative wording on this, but we think we have some good wording. So outdoor swine operations must follow minimum containment standards set out by the Alberta Wild Boar Farms 2015. We have created a licensed livestock permit. So if you want to raise alligators with 6 legs, this would qualify. But what it does is it addresses anything that's going to risk environment or disturb the public. So we're talking about licensed livestock. We're talking about being regulated under our permitting system, wild boar and outdoor swine operations, apiculture, insects.
So license. Now, what about indoor licensing? Like if, I know there are people that raise rodents for snake consumption and stuff like that. Is that anything that would be in our bylaw?
I believe that is already covered by the province.
Yeah, I think there's a provincial licensing program for that because
Okay.
they have to vet you and make sure you're not raising rats.
Yeah, no, and I know that Calgary had some issue with that, or the city of Calgary, and then they moved out to Rocky View, I think, and Rocky View ended up dealing with it. So I'm just trying to be proactive to think about it. And camels, what if I wanted to raise camels? What are you gonna do?
That falls under our licensed livestock permit. What are you raising them for? Meat?
Defense.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride them. Racing camels and ostriches. So big thing I hear. Tourism, I'm doing it for tourism.
The Saudis are importing them.
I've heard I got some fast camels.
So I made a note to include rodents. We'll figure out some.
Just double check, maybe it's already covered. Maybe it's already. And I mean, if we're looking at it, it might as well be now.
So just for clarification on the outdoor swine, so every farmer with some handful of pigs would need a license?
Well,
Or a permit?
under the definition of NRCB, they need a license. There's 2 numbers, it's 50 and 100. So it's 50 breeders or 100 feeders.
Okay, so the larger comes.
And then that's when that gets flagged.
Yeah,
That's when that kicks into your permitting system.
okay, good. It's not the little guys. Okay.
50 and 100. I'm pretty sure that's the 2 numbers.
In our CB numbers anyway. Okay, makes sense. So when will this be ready to present to council for approval?
No. We have an interdepartmental meeting on the 19th of December, and we'll make sure that other parties that have interest in this bylaw particularly have time to review and give maybe some updates or tweak something on their part of it.
Right, okay.
So it's not a new bylaw, so I don't know how, it still needs 3 readings, I think. But it should be a quicker process, I think, than creating a new bylaw.
So before we get too, if I may,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, before we get too far ahead, could that possibly be sent out via email or somehow to council so that we could review it ahead of time? If we're going to be making the tweaks, I like looking at the stuff and seeing if there's something that piques my interest in it. So before you get too carried away, council might say, what about 1-humped and 2-humped camels? And then one of the departments heads say, well, that doesn't count because of this, right? Versus us going to council chambers and doing that, and maybe we could have a look ahead of time to just see. You have,
We can for sure do that. We are going to probably, Quentin and Farah are set up to talk to Andrew through kind of just our bylaw prep. And then we can make that decision on sending it out to council if you're.
yeah, no, and just so that if we're going to be looking at it, let's look at it and pre versus post.
Sometimes these bylaws with a lot of detail in them come through committee of the whole too, so they can be really hashed out prior if you need more time to work on them.
Okay, so then we just, let's see, what else? We have an insurance clause in there that you're required to have some insurance for rearing, whether it's insects or wild boar or whatever. We've got specifications on that. Operation shall only be eligible for permits on parcels where wild boar or outdoor swine is kept prior to coming into effect by this bylaw. That's a pretty big piece. Pretty well stating if there's swine there now, you can only have swine in the future, so you can't create a new piece of land raising outdoor swine or wild boar. That one should take some serious consideration. Minimum containment, minimum containment standards for Alberta wild boar 2015. So because the containment standards the province set out are not part of the Agriculture Pest Act, it's not bound legislation, even though the Minister of Agriculture and those that deal with Alberta Agriculture Pest Act feel that that's a law binding piece of legislation. Our lawyers feel that it's not, so we're going to include that in our bylaw, which will make it binding here at least.
Yeah.
You're subject to inspections. Apiculture specific requirements. A site plan showing the size of the parcel of land where the hives will be located. That the applicant's provincial beekeeper registration number is visible. Confirmation of landowners within 1 kilometer have been notified of the application. Written records and obligation or objections received by the landowner are put into consideration. Insects for proteins and industrial use specific requirements. That the owner must provide proof of CFIA authorization. And then property shall be subject to inspections as well. And then we get into the fines and levies part. We went through and tried to come up with whatever scenario we could possibly think of and why it would be bad. Like, for example, if you didn't have a license permit, it's a $50 fine. It's not a lot, but at least it gets you in the window. Failure to obtain a permit is $1,000 per offense, which doubles and triples as the offense occurs.
In case of a beekeeper, he'd need to renew his permit every year, or does that? Yeah. 'Cause I was just thinking down in our a few hives on our land, and they're not close to any.
I don't recall what was there. I don't see that.
The permitting process is really just designed, I know there were complaints in the past of bees being too close to houses and stuff.
Yeah.
So it would be an annual permit for the term of wherever that hive is. So if you're gonna move it, then you've got to re-notify everyone where you're moving it to.
Right.
So that they don't get issues of bees blocking people's barns and stuff.
So is that for the backyard beekeeper too? Is there a limit on this? Because there's a strong, and I can't remember the organization's name, but they're based out of Calgary and they're doing backyard beekeeping. And the idea behind it is that you have very small hives in your backyards and they're doing it in the cities. And I don't think there's permitting, like a provincial permit that goes with it. I think it's kind of like it's personal use. You have a small hive in your backyard and you get like one small jar of honey.
That's for you guys to direct. That's for you guys to direct. Do you want it to be big bees or just
Well,
bees or all bees?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I get to the point where you have, I mean, there's lots of small hives that people have, but I don't necessarily know. I don't know the bee world that well. So how does that work?
Wouldn't that be similar though to the urban chickens? Where it would be part of a bylaw or something if you allowed them or not, because it, you know.
And I would like to know how they're doing it in Calgary, but there's an organization, I can get you that
As long as
contact.
it's only the person whose property they're on. Like if backyard chicken is or backyard bees are a company or hives, and they can jump from place to place, well, then that becomes a business, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, like if you have it on your own property, it's one thing, but if you're having it on somebody else's property, that's a different story, right? So that's where I would be at on it too, Larry, that if you have it on your own property, that should be great. So when you start moving it out, and then, but you have the colonies that would have some large hives that would be next door to somebody else, but they have big landowners. I don't know. That one's gonna have to be thought about a little bit more, I think. Flush that one out a
There's a
little.
lot of pieces to this one.
Pardon, we do, and I can't seem to find it just yet, but we even have a setback for bees specifically. We have a setback to the highways. Can't seem to find
I
it.
think we should buy you bee handcuffs.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, we got a responsible bee guy in our area. He looks after the bees. I've had him in my shop 4 years in a row. I don't know really what to do with it, but he comes and he cuts a hole in the side of my Quonset and he gets his bees out and he's very on the ball doing it. And then bees have to come at least 2 miles. So, you know, when you have them in town, I don't know about that. Anyhow, he's more than fair. A case of honey shows up when he gets his bees done.
Yeah.
And he apologized all over himself, but like that guy come out at 10 o'clock at night. The last time he took those bees out of there with a vacuum cleaner and a thing, and he had to go back and get another great big hive thing because he had it just black in there. So I don't know. He's as far as I'm concerned, he is a responsible bee guy. That's Gradanis out here. He come and he looks after it. But what do I do with? How do I get rid of them if they're in there? They're in the wall.
Handle.
So my experience with them, but what it is we pasture at home there, alfalfa. So our alfalfa, and then we send the cows away for the summer, and we have late alfalfa blooming. Well, I don't know. I guess I should set up some of my own hives, but I don't like bees anyhow. So, but that guy is responsible. Like, so I don't know how you could keep them in a lot in Calgary or here or wherever, because they go wherever they want to go.
I think if it's gonna be urban, like in a hamlet or any setting like that, it'd have to be just like one very small hive. So it's really not much more than a handful of wild bees flying around, because you couldn't have very many, because it could become a problem.
The other neighbor had that when they were gonna just use it for their own honey, and the wasp got in there and they kill all the bees. I didn't know that.
Tara?
Well, that's stuff you learn.
The intent isn't to like contain the bees, it's just to have adjacent landowners informed and agreeing to the bees being there to help reduce some conflicts and complaints that we
Yeah.
deal with. So
Yeah.
if everyone knows about it, they should be potentially more tolerant.
I just would request that a hamlet in a different area be the test case.
Yeah.
Well, I know personal knowledge that we already have a number of people in multiple hamlets in our county that are already doing it. And I think the town has a bylaw about not keeping bees, right?
I don't know if there's a bylaw, but I know there is some one-off beekeepers in the town of Stettler.
Because there was something, I just remember they had something along, you couldn't buy beekeeping paraphernalia at PV Mart, that something, they had a sign there at that time, and I can't remember what it was. I just saw it and I thought, well, that's odd, that's very odd.
Mind your own beeswax or what?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I guess we'll be seeing this a few more times, for sure. As it,
Well, I hope not. I'd like to just get this dealt with. Have you see it at council?
yeah. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, that was a pretty good overview of all the things that'll be going into the animal control bylaws. So, anybody got any further things to add? Okay, well, we'll be,
I guess I'll be doing a piece to consider rodents or do some look into making sure that they're controlled by the province. And
Bees,
include some sort of a hamlet or dense country living.
Just have a look at it, I think.
At back is not the right word, but
yeah, I would think there would be a minimum.
Yeah, I don't know what there's the city of Calgary, that's one of the places that, I don't know if they put a bylaw in or what they did.
So if there's nothing further on this, I'll ask for a motion to receive for information. Larry, all in favor? Carried. 8.1, request for decision, cancellation of December ASB board meeting. Who wants to come December 25th?
I'll cancel it.
Okay, Dave moved to cancel.
Motion cancel.
All in favor? And carried. And then in January, 8.2, cancellation of the January ASB board meeting. That is when we are actually at the provincial ASB conference in Edmonton that month.
Cancel it.
Dave makes a motion to cancel. All in favor? And carried. Okay, moving on to 8.3, request for letter of support. Christy, we'll let you take this one.
So as the council is aware, we are trying to apply for some granting to support the proposed Red Willow Lagoon.
As the council's aware, we're attempting to apply for some granting to support the Red Willow Lagoon discharge proposed project. We have taken a look at the Alberta Drought and Flood Resistance Program, and albeit it may be considered a bit of a stretch, however, it's of my opinion that we do meet their guiding principles, which are advanced drought resilience. Resilient communities rely on sustainable infrastructure to manage water supplies for future generations and help reduce drought impacts, as well as we align with their project eligibility and preferred project outcomes, sustainable water supplies, projects that provide healthy, secure, and sustainable water supplies to benefit our communities, environment, and economy. It's of our opinion that because we'll be dumping or transporting, discharging approximately 48,000 cubic meters of effluent annually, which will ultimately end up in the Battle River, that is a creative way to support drought. So we're going to go at it from that angle, and we strengthen our application with a partnership with another organization. And again, it's of our opinion that the best partnership could be achieved through Battle River Watershed Alliance. Therefore, we're asking if the ASB would seek a letter of support from Battle River Watershed Alliance for this application for Alberta Drought and Flood Resistance Program.
Interesting. Any questions?
Well, just, I like it. I really like the idea. I mean, we have not funded the Battle River Watershed Alliance in the past. As far as membership, they've always kind of asked us to be part of them, but we just never saw much of a benefit of it, I guess. So, yeah, I'm not sure it's as disingenuous to ask now for support, but.
Christy.
And that is something that we did address in administration as well, as the council has been requested to fund in the past. Andrew's belief is it's roughly a $5,000 voluntary per capita funding. And pardon me, not per capita, but it's a per capita funding that equates to roughly 5,000. Because this idea just came to be at 9 o'clock this morning, we couldn't resource exactly what it is per capita. That's off of his memory. And we also do feel that is it disingenuous? And that's something that we wanted you guys to talk through.
Well, it's worth a shot. And being this is a new grant, I mean, if it's not oversubscribed, there's a good chance we could get some funding. So it's well worth it for the project. So I think the letter is worth supporting, but what does the board think about the membership? Is that something that should go hand in hand, or would they be happy to get the water? Chrissy?
If I could add, if you feel that there is another agency that would be a valid partnership on this grant application, please let me know, because I do have inexperience with your agency and your relationships.
So is that particular grant hinged on partnerships, or is it just helpful?
Their exact wording is, partnering with another organization who share common objectives is strongly encouraged.
So one of the ones that I would think we need to reach out is White Sands and Ocean Sands 100%. Should be part of that organizations that we're reaching out to, multiple municipalities, because they've got a big name or stake in this play, right? So.
Larry?
Well, another one too would be either Alberta Environment and or Alberta Agriculture, because out of that Red Willow Creek system, there is a lot of intense livestock operators that draw water to fill dugouts, etc. And we've had many issues over the last 3 or 4 years with water flowing backwards, etc. So that creek is in dire need of fluid for that as and part of that natural filtering piece. So I think we do have the opportunity. The end result really is the river, you know, so maybe that is something we have to look at as we're funding different pieces if we are going to be adding that kind of water to it and stuff, to work with them hand in hand to make sure that it's, you know, the ecosystem is being balanced and everything on that river system. So that could be another one to look at. I think it's your most important, but there is many departments it could link to.
And then, Mr. Chair, I will add the deadline for this grant application is Friday, because it just came into creative thought yesterday.
Well, it's not, you're not going to get the Battle River Watershed Alliance or Ocean Sands or White Sands to help us on that. But I would put the application in, and then you could always supplement the application with those letters.
Back to
Exactly what I'll do.
To have them participate, you know, to ask them to participate, at least that can be stated in the letter. I would,
Yeah, and I mean, it is, I do feel that we are a little bit, I mean, this is an ask, but I mean, at the end of the day, I guess I can kind of square that with, we're contributing to them via water, not necessarily asking them to do anything for us in this case, right?
and we may not have been funding them, but they have been in front of us numerous occasions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to talk about what's happening with the Battle River watershed. So I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for that agreement or that partnership, and then we can have the future conversations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it's written well, the request is written well, that we're asking for them to have that, you know, are you okay with this? Is it's more of a permission situation? And if you are, please give us a letter of, like, not asking for, hey, would you support this
So, and with the
without?
system now, if it was email, maybe you could get a response a little bit quicker too.
Fair enough. Yeah.
If you talk about, like, say, I know 2 days is
It's
very
tight.
tight timelines.
And that's exactly how I would do it as well, as if we don't have the letters in hand, but we do have the motion requesting them, I would say that they are, and might finesse my wording, but say that they are coming.
And I think with Battle River Watershed Alliance, I mean, if we ask them for a letter of support, they may consider it, well, if that's something, well, so if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back sort of thing. If we send this letter to the county of support, maybe they will consider funding us in the alliance down the road. So I think working together is a two-way street. So I have no problems asking them for that letter.
And they're the beneficiary of the water,
Exactly.
honestly. I mean,
So
that's kind of
on a
unbelievable.
motion basis, it would be to them, but also, I would think to the government agencies as in Alberta Environment and Alberta.
I don't know if they typically give you letters.
But we're under pressure. We're under pressure in temporary diversions. We just met with them over temporary diversions up at RMA. So I guess you could use that though as secondary beneficiaries.
And I'll also add to that, there is that new stream of funding. It's $20 million annually for emergent issues. Should you seek a letter of support from Alberta Environment, it expresses your urgency based on your dialogue at RMA and could help us to capture some of that funding as well.
Yeah. No, and it doesn't hurt. I'm not saying that that's absolutely, I'm just not sure we'd get it, but it doesn't hurt to, and in the motion, I would say, yeah, absolutely put it in there, that we seek support from all of those people, those agencies.
And what I have listed is White Sands, Roshan Sands, Alberta Environment, and Battle River Watershed. Is there any other agency that you would choose? Alberta Agriculture.
Sure.
And I was wondering if the county of Stettler is applying for this grant, could the ASB board also support it in the agricultural vein?
Yes.
No, it's not really arm's length, but it
Yes.
is yeah, I think.
I felt it was fitting to put it into this meeting because there is a mandate within Alberta Agriculture and ASB for drought resistance.
I think when they see the ag side of it as well, so it's all one more piece of support.
I'm with that.
I'll put that motion forward.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Discussion, Dave?
You put the motion forward that we're going to give them a letter if White Sands and Roshan Sands and all them, or are you just putting a motion forward that
We're requesting funding, asking for letters of agreement or acceptance, support.
Support.
From the other
changing on?
No.
Yeah, okay.
This is a grant application. This has nothing to do with 90.
I realize that, but I think they should be, they're the ones that use that lagoon like crazy. They should have should be putting cash into it.
Well, that's a different order. Yeah, that's 100% different.
Conversation, but yeah. This motion is basically asking these aforementioned organizations for letters of support. That's all it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of Larry's motion? That one's carried. Moving on to 8.4, Battle River Research Funding. When we did our organization meeting, I think it was left that although we weren't sending a representative to the board, we would continue funding them. But I just want to make sure this is clear. Being this funding comes out of the ASB budget, although financially it has to ultimately be approved by council. I think we need this discussion here. I had a chat with the County of Stettler board member at large on Battle River, and he was quite taken back that we hadn't sent a representative. He said they didn't see it coming. If there was problems, why didn't you say something or whatever? And he got the gist that there wasn't many plots in the county of Stettler, but he said there's other things they have done in the county. They've done a couple projects on the livestock side. They've done one with Maverick Veterinary Clinic, and they've done another cattle one in the county of Stettler. And with the plots, they've asked a few farmers in the county who just didn't have the land available for it. So there has been some effort towards it. And they say if they know the county's position, I mean, they definitely can work harder on it. So I think maybe future communication is necessary for sure. But anyways, on the funding side, I guess we just need thoughts. Yvette did mention, I think, at organization meeting, if you're going to completely pull, you would have to definitely give them a time warning. So but I didn't take that from the meeting. I don't know what the board was thinking. Larry?
I did get, a couple of the other municipalities that are involved with Battle River Research basically gave me the same discussion as what you'd received, Les. And, so, you know, that maybe we weren't getting, I guess we knew the workshops were here. I'd seen the workshops advertised through our Ag Services Board, but, maybe that's part of our, partially our fault for not recognizing actually what they did do and working maybe with our producers to get some plots. Because that was the other part that was said is it's, people have to agree to have the plots and that's one of the issues. And some of these other municipalities had a lot more people putting their hands up, so.
Yeah, so it's not all on them, I guess, is what I'm saying too. And then, Dave?
In our budget, we were gonna give them 10,000 again.
That's what we have in,
15 that everybody else gets.
I think we're typically funding them 10.
When we get to it, I'll make the motion to go.
Okay.
Say that again, Mr.
I am going to give $10,000 to Battle River Research for this year, and we're not sending any representation. I don't want that in there. That we send them $10,000 for what they do,
Actually read recommendation to council to give.
and we send it back to council. It'll have to be passed through there.
Yeah.
I am making the recommendation from Ag Service Board to there. Okay.
Just to be clear that we can't make it here.
For 2025, right?
What?
For
Yeah.
next year.
I think this year's already paid, I'm
This
assuming.
year's already paid.
Yeah, this would be a 20 budgetary
It
item.
goes into our, because we're actually finalizing budget tomorrow, so I guess if we make this motion, I'm pretty sure council will probably pass it, because I think people are fairly similar. So I think they got a similar mindset, right?
Well, no, I guess I might be the lone outsider on this one because I have sat on that board in the past. I'm not getting I'm not getting the feedback from any of the producers in my area that, and maybe it is the size of producers that make a difference. I don't know. I don't think any of our colonies are involved with what goes on there. They haven't had much to deal with it. I don't know the larger producers that have been in my area when I've had conversation to them are of a different mindset typically with the research that they're getting done. Many of them work with an agrologist as part of their farming team, and I know the colonies work with an agrologist. There is maybe some benefit of the livestock side of things, but again, it seems to be very livestock specific in the sense that it's cattle only. The pig producers in our area don't necessarily have much to do with them. The sheep producers definitely don't have much to do with them. And from any other side, I'm not seeing it. So maybe I'm just not seeing it. I don't know.
What about creating a conditional agreement attached with this funding? Present your goals and achievements, or we come up with a set of achievements they have to make in order to get funding in the following year, or a lot like our provincial grant. Do you want some money? Tell us what you're doing with it. Okay, you've done this with it. How are you going to improve that?
James?
No, I think Dave and Larry both had their hand up.
Oh, okay.
Very head is up.
You talk about the agrologist, that's an option for every farmer, and regardless of size, they'll come out and give you full soil analysis and what you should do. But on the same sense, when it comes to a lot of the development of our feeds and cereal grains and corn, etc., a lot of those agrologists even look back at those plots. And, you know, and they do it independently so that you're testing, you know, it's not being hand weeded, it's not those other pieces. So I think the underlying importance could still be there, and those producers are still getting benefits from not maybe just Battle River, but other research corps too. So it's I think for 10,000 for us being an agricultural county, I definitely don't want to step out of it now, especially with the responses we've got back from even our own members at large. And I would dearly I wish one of your producers out there would go and join it, and maybe we could.
I have tried, they won't even buy membership.
Yeah. So, but that's really, you know, because the different soil conditions, everything, you know, that's the thing about the Battle River is it's on such a diverse soil scale that you've got everything from the hard gumbo that some of us are into to that the fine topsoil, and then you look at the land up around in that Flagstaff County. There's some wonderful land up there for growing crops. So there is quite a variance. Yeah.
Dave?
Agronomists get their information, a lot of it from research that Battle River does. Another thing is there were three, the last one I went to, Paul was on that last year, but the last one before that, 3 colonies were represented, the one down in Bymore, George was there. There were 3 of them represented at the thing, and they're all taking notes, you know, and comparing stuff. And a lot of the bigger farmers from over in here, they come to that field day just to check it out. They were pretty impressed with the oats, the one crop of oats that they had there. And there's just the last one, when I was on there the year before Paul was on there, we did a silage trial at the Delta Colony on their land. And even ones that have been putting silage up for years were impressed with how much, which ones rated higher on protein, sugar, and all the rest of it than what they were doing. The one guy switched from corn. Corn doesn't have as much in it. White wheat is a big thing now in silage business.
Can you clarify when you said the thing?
What?
You said the thing.
What thing?
Mr. Grover, you said they were at the thing. I'm not sure I understand.
At the silage trial.
Oh, at the
They were up at the silage trial there, and what's your name put it on? But it doesn't really make no difference. He used to be he come here all the time. We had him on a regular basis. He was the guy that put the manager did put that on, yeah. And the manager, he moved up. He's now way up in Ag Service Board with Macaulay. And I think it's a decent enough outfit. If you want to go to it, we can make the public where it is, but some farmers won't go to it anyhow. And I've got a couple of my farmers, and we had the trial out here. They won't come on trial day, but they go in there and check it out when nobody's around, because, you know, nobody's going to tell them how to farm. You know how old farmers are.
Barrett?
But anyhow, no, I think it's a great thing, and I always have, and I never change my opinion on it. That your agronomists are sometimes fairly green, and where did they get their information from?
So it sounds like you guys are seeing value in the Battle River Research Group, but there's a lack of clarity of what you're understanding. There's quite a few municipalities up in the Peace region that have outlined a specific conditional agreement. So they have a wish list of the 5 things that their research association has to do to get their grant funding. And then they could have a division of this percentage is operational funding, this percentage goes directly to extension work within our municipality. And that would maybe kind of clarify some of the concerns that the member of large had of, we didn't know what you guys wanted. So if we make a clear wish list and define that and have a clause that if those items aren't met, that maybe a portion of or something with our funding could be returned if they're not meeting our
Or
expectations.
next year or something.
Yeah.
We have Ernie then Dave.
I guess I'm more along the line of what Quentin had suggested and what James is. I look at it, I'm looking for the bang for the buck. We had put some few little acreages together right at the end of our laneway. They did it for 1 year. Never come back to say, okay, could we repeat it, anything like that. So I do not believe that their involvement is so really warranted for the money there being spent. I would just soon say, okay, like if you want it, great. But if in order to send a message to them, I would say, okay, we'll give you $5,000 this year. Prove to us that you're going to be warranting, say like the additional part, earn for what you are going to show us.
And Dave?
Yeah, the Battle River, it works as a Chinook research station at OIN. You know, they have a woman there that has, 23 years of experience in research. And we've traded like sheeting equipment back and forth. If they have one breakdown, you know, it's not a big thing. They come and grab, we sterilize ours and then give it to them or vice versa. I think they're a pretty good deal, and like the gathering, put on a lot of cattle stuff here, but we should have a plot. I had a corn plot lined up for it, but then I wasn't there, so I couldn't do it. No, I think you should give them 10 and move on.
And I can't help but think about, I'd like to understand where Camrose was at and why they pulled the pin as well. I think there was a little bit of and I think part of where we were at too is maybe we weren't getting the information back as well as we should have been getting back that could have been coming back to us. So I can't help but think that maybe that is some of the problem that is there. And I go to Mr. Clark's conversation with, I'm sure it was Mr. Solmeister over there, his comment to me about when I talked about decentralization of the Alberta government, which I believe the Battle Research Group is some of it, his comment, well, they don't do F-all anyways. I find it hard and difficult on one side that he says somebody in that position doesn't do anything, but another one does.
I won't defend that, but I do know what, like our info center did before and stuff. I called in many times myself, and it disappoints me we don't have those things.
When they have an opinion on one and not on the other, it diminishes my thought pattern of their value of their opinion. So
I'm sure you could find that in multiple.
yeah, no, for sure. And I'm not against it. I do think there needs to be, and what Mr. Gender said, there's some value added to this. I'm not sure where I'm just, again, I apologize. I'm just not seeing it. When I was there, and I like Farah's idea, when I was on the plot or on the board, at the time, we used to send 2 guys because they didn't have quorum, which quickly changed. We had to change their bylaws. So I'm just saying that we've been good to the Battle River, and I'm just hoping that they reciprocate the love that we've given them in the past. So.
All right.
And I think if we listen to what Farah said to us, we could lay some conditions down, which, like, I don't think can draw money from this year grant, but it very easily could lay the rules for next year. If this is to continue, this is expectations, and this is what we expect with this money.
So on a go-forward basis, that should come from this board, that we put that expectation to council as a conversation that council can have, that is the conditions that we put forward.
And we could either make them as a delegation or go and attend a meeting as a delegation of, send a few to put it to their board.
Yeah, I have 3 points that I'd like to add. Is the one thing I like about research stations is they're independent. They're not a private company that's trying to push their product or their brand of grain or whatever. They're independent research. I think that's more valuable sometimes. And I'll just reiterate what Farah said. I think conditional funding is probably the way to go. So that's a make work project for Farah and Quentin to draw up some of this with our input, of course, in going down the road. And if they know it's coming, I think that's important. And my third point was, I think, communication. I think we just need to communicate better with Battle River. And I think there'll be more value in it too. And then also, I was just going to go to Paul. on that board, what's input do you have to share with us on that?
Well, this year they updated a lot of stuff, especially their website for more information and more gathering of information through their plots and through other groups in the province, whatever else. Yeah, and at their Ag Service Board, there were a few colonies there. There was quite a few Hutterites. I don't know which colonies they came from, but I know that they were of the Hutterite Brethren, so they do support quite a bit that way. So yeah, I do know that they had reached out to members that they've had plots before, but there was no interest in the county of Stettler this year. County of Camrose, I think they had 5 or 6 that were interested, but because they didn't belong to the Battle River, it was going to be at the cost of the farmer themselves to have those plots. So they backed out themselves.
So I just have a question and clarification on that, if I can. So when they do this, they reach out for these plots. Like, here's where I'm coming from on this. If our own farmers who have set up plots are not interested, why are we making that decision? Why are the colonies not saying, okay, put a plot on? Why are not our members at large saying, put a plot on? Right? I'm not sure where the disconnect is on this, because this is my background, my underlying issue is, if our own people won't step up and say, put a plot here, then why are we not saying it's not ours?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Maybe one of the questions is, how are they sourcing plots? Are they asking 3 people in the county, or are they asking their neighbor, or is it, whose onus is it to find a plot in the county?
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the problem, and we could probably help them with that through our advertising venues.
I think they leave it mainly up to the individuals to come forth if they want a plot and whatever else. So there's no real field or legwork out there to gain farmers, whatever.
I would like to see plots in my end of the county, because the soil conditions and the moisture conditions are much different than they are in Erskine.
Absolutely.
Much different than Flagstaff.
Yeah.
So you need different varieties sometimes too.
Well, and a couple of years ago, they had a plot just north of Stettler here, and it was a hay plot. But I was only a 1-year deal. They didn't come back and follow up on that stuff. And maybe that's what they should be doing, is a lot more follow up on conditions from year to year, instead of just a one-time thing, sort of a thing. So.
Larry,
One of our producer members is right down beside you, isn't he?
Yeah.
Why? Maybe ask him, like, have that conversation.
They had asked him to put a plot on, and he said he didn't have a piece of land ready that year. I don't know if it was this year or last year, but anyways, but he is definitely interested too.
And he has land north of Halbert too, like he has land in both counties, so.
Yeah. Dave, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I do.
We had, not last year, the year before, they had a study. One, and I already talked to it, was on the Denella colony, and had a fairly good turnout there. And then I had another one lined up to do a corn, because there's a pile of corn in the area. Actually a field trial on corn. Different kinds, like open pollinated or Roundup ready. And then another thing, what fertilizer does the best when you see it, but in a field situation. And I had the guy lined up, and then I didn't go on there. So, and he said, well, he's out.
What, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. I did not hear you, Mr. Grover. Why did he not go on there?
Maybe it was farther away from my mic than it should have been. I had a corn plot last year lined up, and then I wasn't on there, Paul's on there, so he should line up one up there, I would think. And comparable, last year's they've had one over at Castor there, and that soil would be very comparable to the land that you farm. Very comparable. And they had it there for years.
So you're telling me the board members line up the plots, not the management up there?
No, I think you gotta fight for a plot. And, if you do, I think you get one.
Ernie?
So this year, we're not putting plots out and we're just going to either put money in it or not put money in it and move on.
Ernie?
Good.
I find it very poor on behalf of that board. If you already had one lined up, it should have been up to them to follow through.
Yeah,
Whether this plot is to go.
Yeah, they didn't want to, I guess, I don't know. I thought they'd put one up, outside in Elba. It was nothing materialized up there.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to recommend to council to fund Battle River Research Station with $10,000. We had quite a bit of discussion on conditional funding. Would that be a separate motion then?
You have
Probably.
to take the motion that's on the floor.
First, oh yeah.
Unless the motion giver is willing to make an amendment.
Okay, well, we'll just do it in two motions then. Okay, so any,
Was to give them 10,000 with no representation, right?
We
well,
recommend council fund the budget.
yeah, just recommend to council to fund it in the amount of 10,000. All those in favor of that motion? Opposed? Ernie?
No, I don't mind sending it to council, because I
Okay.
can vote against it.
Okay, the motion passed with any opposition. Okay, so now we need the conditional funding.
Or the conditions, the conditional funding or the conditional agreement?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like,
Conditional funding in the agreement, yes.
okay, so here's, we've got a motion that we're gonna fund him $10,000. Okay, or we're actually, how we're gonna do it is we're going to move it on to council. And then council will make the decision that we conditionally fund them with whether it be $5,000 and then 5,000 of X amount of dollars, however it comes to council at, right? Is that what I'm understanding this to be?
I think, well, Farrell will probably explain this better, but I think they will get whatever council decides, 10,000 say, or whatever it is, if they meet these three criteria.
So because you already passed motion approving the 10,000, you'd almost have to rescind that motion in order.
No, because that motion goes to council. That has nothing to do with it. We can't spend money here.
But if you're requesting an agreement to be connected to that funding, you're going to have to amend or rescind the last one.
Agreement would be for 26. wouldn't it?
So I would,
That's what I would understand too. But I think that is,
But they will also know that we're expecting something in return of this funding, and in the conditional funding agreement is in the works, I would think.
so to help Michelle there, all that did was request that council look at that, spending that money. We haven't said how that money is going to be spent, and council can make the decision on how that's going to be spent. So that doesn't obscure that motion at all. All it is it's just a request. If it was that we were going to spend the money, I would have voted against it. So that's the difference that I see there.
And in this motion, this is just, trying to get a mechanism to have strings attached.
Yes. So I would make the motion that,
With that would be if the money is coming from council, the string should be coming from council, not this board.
But we're
Even
thinking,
though you're the same party, that should be a council motion that gets connected to that.
it would
You
be.
want to make a recommendation to council to set a proposal to set.
It would be, but I still think lots of times we have more time here. We can suggest the strings to council.
no. Okay. So I'm going to hopefully clarify this a little bit. Council will give authority to the Ag Service Board to spend $10,000. The Ag Service Board will decide how that $10,000 is spent. So the Ag Service Board will put the conditions on how that's spent. Ag Service Board can make that as a condition. Council makes the condition of.
It's coming out of your budget.
It's coming out of your budget. How you spend it is your deal. Council will give $10,000 to Quentin to give to Battle River Research. We, as the Ag Service Board, by motion, will make a decision of how we spend it. Whether we spend it we could give it to them quarterly. We could make that decision. We could say that you have to do this, this, and this. That is the decisions that will be made. So, I would make a motion that, administration bring back to the Ag Service Board recommendations on how we put conditions on funding the Battle River Research Group.
And put it to them in 2025 for the 2026 possible budget.
I would think we'd do it for next year, wouldn't we?
For this, the budget we're voting on tomorrow.
Yeah.
I,
Because we're gonna give them 10 grand.
Because what we agreed is we would still fund them their 10,000.
Yeah.
But not to pull the rug out from.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. But all we're gonna ask is, we're gonna ask them to have a condition of, we want to see plots, we want to see
certain things that we probably are behind on them even being able to do for this upcoming growing season.
Well, and I guess, okay, so Larry, I think that works in my motion. They would bring that back and we can discuss when we're gonna do that.
Well, that works in that motion.
Yeah.
I think that, all it does is they're gonna bring back options for us to talk about next time.
So typically, Battle River Research Group comes and gives their annual report sometime around, historically speaking, around April. So that does give us time to come up with some conditions or some sort of agreement. And when they give their report, we can say, great, we're looking at funding $10,000. This is what we're looking at putting in place. And they might say, hey, sure, we'll sign that now. Or they might say, okay, let's sign it for the 2026.
And at which point we can make the decision if we're okay with that.
Well, we've just discussing plots and having producers, et cetera. And if we say in April, we want it's conditional on 2 plots in the county of Stettler, it isn't gonna work.
It isn't going to work, no.
It might, they might already have it in the plans.
They might, but
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know it's a planning situation.
it's kind of setting somebody up for.
I know. But they might already have that set up. They might say, yes, this is what we're going to do. It has to be doable.
What we are doing, Les,
We voted on the money already.
we vote on the money, it's there. Now we're gonna put strings on it after we put it there?
Yes.
But maybe not for this 25, it may be 26.
That'll come.
But not in 25. In 26, then you put strings on it.
Well, we don't know.
I don't know what I'm voting.
We don't know. You see, we don't know if we're putting strings on because administration's gonna bring back to us at a later date some options. The option might be have a discussion with Battle River Research Group that they have 2 plots. They're gonna come back and say, yes, we already have 2 plots ready. Bang, Bob's your uncle. They are willing to do that. But if they come back and say, no, we're not willing to do any of that, well, maybe then it's a case of ever, right?
Whatever.
It's all hinged on communication, the way I see it with Battle River. We'll work with them on it, and if they can swing it already next year, fine, but if they can't, they'll definitely will in 26 if they want funding.
And in 26, there will be a different council, I am sure.
It'll be a due council.
Yeah, but I mean, it'll be in policy or whatever, and they unless they want to break it. But I think it's a.
So my motion's okay to bring $10,000.
We voted on it.
Motion is already been.
Already done.
This is just to work on the conditional funding, and James, you.
I made a motion that have administration bring back some ideas on conditions.
Yeah, basically, so, Paul.
And just for clarification, if they can work it in for the 2025 year, that's what we would like to see, but it has to go to the 2026 year, and
And
that's
that's when we bring it back for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Quentin's got his hand up.
okay, go ahead.
Do you have any ideas of what you want for conditions?
Fair has it. She already had that. She's the one who started this stuff.
Yeah, but what do you guys want?
Peace River.
Jelly beans
Yeah,
make
We
me,
might have to see some of the northern ones for,
yeah, just give us some ideas.
they have, we want, like, the northern ones gave significantly less funding. So they asked for, like a agronomy update, kind of a research summary, a public event, a newsletter article, and one more thing. I can't remember, but it was only for,
It's very basic.
It
Yeah.
sounds like we're getting that already.
but like, then you have it outlined. Did you meet whatever expectations we have? So obviously our funding is different. So we could ask for one plot in X region, or we want 2 plots in the whole county, or we want,
I think you've heard some stuff here though, like,
but like numbers attached to it, or X years of follow-up with a plot that's put out. So I've heard lots of ideas bounce around, but we just want to know what we want to prioritize in the agreement. You guys have talked about plots.
Yeah.
Follow-up.
I think the big one is follow-up. What I'm getting right now is we've had some plots, but the follow-up has been less than still.
And then communication, I think, too.
and from communication, it's like what I said yesterday when we had our discussion first thing in the morning, we had something come out to us and we never all responded to it. We had, with the past manager, we had very good newsletters coming out.
I read them all. I was happy.
And so from a communication basis from that group, I'm not saying what it'll be go forward, but that, I don't think we can dismiss or say that they didn't do what they should have been doing to put their reports back to us on what was happening.
They just send them, right?
No, and I don't necessarily say that, but maybe there was a missing link in there somewhere.
Okay, Ernie?
For an example, like we could just say, okay, if it's gonna be, how many plots you gonna do? Well, okay, if it's gonna be $1,500 per plot, at least break it down and say, okay, we are going to get some plots and whatever else you want to, there's gonna be quite a wide variety that we can shoot at.
And if they can't get a plot, maybe they need to discuss why they're not getting a plot,
Well,
right?
and maybe we need to upsell it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that if this is what they can offer, this, this could be you could look at it as an inconvenience on your operation for this period, but it could be.
Interesting
Mr.
information.
Chairman, we have a plot of land right beside the county of Stettler shop that it would very well easily be given up to have a plot on it. There's absolutely no reason that we could not do that, right? As an offer, that would be, you want a plot, that's where it has to be, right? Let's do it there. Just saying. We have full access to it. There's an opportunity. I mean, to sit here and say that we haven't, I don't know if I have had the board member and not knocking Paul come to us and say, we need a plot in the county of Stettler, where can we get it? If it would have came to this board, the first thing I would have suggested is that property there. Right? It doesn't have to be on a farmer's land. We have a ton of land in this county. We're a very significant landowner in the county of Stettler.
And if that was the case, it's quite ensured that they could get it all the time, and maybe you would want them to have different plots there all the time, if it's alfalfa, if it's grain, whatever, just different plots every so many years.
That would be one of the suggestions. And as far as our ASB, they'd have full access of watching as long as they didn't pick weeds and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good starting point.
And can I just add, one thing they could look at is alternate beef sources, and maybe we could start putting gophers into burgers, because we're certainly growing enough of them in our county.
For stew?
So, and I'm not sure, but maybe there's a trial for gopher mitigation. I don't know, just a thought. Don't know if that fits into that. So we do have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Okay, I'll ask the question, all in favor? And carried. So moving on to the correspondence, Clean Farms is 9.1 on page 26. That's their $12,000 cash prize for, it's basically 4-H and those kind of clubs that qualify. This has been coming out already. I think Communications has put this out, various places already. So I think locally it is advertised.
I've had a few phone calls already on different organizations, excited to hear about this.
Okay, so I think we'll just move through them and ask for, receive for information at the end.
Just a question on that Clean Farms of twine. Does it have to be as clean as what they said last year? Because stripping twine off right now, you don't have clean twine even right now. It's got frozen lumps to it, and I looked at that this morning and thought, this is, to me, is offering something that we're gonna have a hard time.
They say to clean it as best as possible. They say to shake it off as best you can. When we did our community engagement events, I had a third of a bag of twine I brought around with us, and it wasn't as clean as I thought it should have been, and it was acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, well, do you still have it? Just to bring it in to show a person, because I thought today, I thought this.
It got recycled, but I'm sure we can bring in a
I'll
sample.
bring you some, and that wrap doesn't count?
That wrap does not count at this time.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have dry hay. What the heck are you putting up?
Worst thing is snow and mountains.
It is, melts all, man. There's that crust. I mean, it's good actually, because it puts a nice crust on it, and the inside of the bale is really nice. But I tell you what, I agree with you.
So,
Even sheep won't eat it.
yeah. But anyways, this is out there, and I guess anybody looking through our package can see it as well or online, but it's a good fundraiser for local clubs.
It is, as long as they can get the right product.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we just go through these, and then at one motion at the end, we'll give you to receive for information.
That was my plan as well. Moving on to 9.2, the agriculture moisture update on page 28. This is, it's nice to see them all the time, but it's information that it just confirms what we know, I guess, largely. It's good to have them included. Anybody got any questions on the moisture maps?
Ours, in our areas, we're going to be very spotting screwed up this year. Because we have got areas to the north of our county that's terrible drought. I won't stand up and down and swear that we had the best moisture, but your area had lots of moisture, but maybe not at the best times.
Yeah, we had lots of moisture, more than we've probably ever had, and it came early and it came late. It was just a period in the middle that was really lacking, that caused a lot of damage, but overall, yeah. And you can see by the maps, the southern half of the county generally has more moisture than the northern half.
Something else that hit us that I haven't heard mentioned at this table is a lot of this late canola that was being combined just before the snow was a June 18th frost is what got it. Yeah. And it's not just very particular in my area, but I've talked to people in the county to the east of us, and they were having the same thing because it just froze the bottom leaves off, didn't produce like it should, but it just didn't mature like it should either.
A lot of the unmatured canola out there, yeah.
And then what I found is as they sloughed it, or trying to straight comment it, I guess, but there was more green coming through than the original crop.
So do you guys notice that there's a lot of heated canola out there? Yeah. No, I've seen a few of the farmers in my area that are moving bin to bin, so I'm thinking.
I think it might have been panic right when the weather was changing.
Yeah, and so typically when they're doing that, I know, and the only thing I could think is that it was canola that they had in those bins, because that's typically what they're there.
A lot of very reasonably placed green feed for sale now too, that is showing put up at 20%. Because of weather and,
Wow.
you better be ready to feed it right away.
Oh, yeah. So if there's nothing more on moisture, we'll move on to the, what's next, Agno on 9.3, page 38. Oops, is that 38 or something? 37, I think, actually. It starts on 37. So is this just outlining, it's a good program, but the funding's not there right now?
So keep pushing.
Keep advocating, yeah. So there is, whatever, a tick off chart in here. Things you can do. We've accomplished some of these already for sure. On page 39. So this is just something for our own information, basically, isn't it? So do you have an rural health workshop in Big Valley coming up? Do you get any funding from any sources other than the county itself for that?
Actually, we asked to partner with,
The Rural Mental Health Network. So Lorraine's other hat, she's working with us on putting on that workshop.
Oh, yeah.
she's sponsoring one of the keynote speakers.
Already in. They talked about that at the FCSA meeting, RDN connection.
Yeah.
I went to their breakout session. It was good.
Yeah. Okay, so there's nothing more on that. We'll move to 9.4, the County of Stettler letter to rural mental health on page 42. Well, page 40. These are a little off, but maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Page 40 anyway. Yeah,
That's
page-
the one we already talked about, Mr. Chairman, that we'd already sent.
Yeah, that we have sent a letter. And at this point, has there been a response or? Of course, it just went, I guess, just probably nicely went out.
Mr. Chairman, if you're okay with that one, the new agri-investment requirement, it's interesting because I was at the EDA supper, the Alberta Economic Development Association supper up in Edmonton. And then how they did it was you sat at a table and these people from everywhere came around. And one of them was the Agriculture and Foods Canada individual. And what they are trying to, or what they see. I did not know this, but like a food fast frozen, I guess what it is. It's the centers for frozen food being storage, so it's cold storage. Is at a all-time low in Alberta because the current supply, or not supply, whatever it is, current is not adequate, the current amount. So there's a huge call right now for this cold storage. There's only one company, it's called Cold Store in Alberta. There's a second company that's just coming online, but there's a huge economic development opportunity, and it doesn't have to be in the cities. So they definitely have one going in Lethbridge because of all the stuff down there. But I think there's an opportunity from us to connect with this on a economic development side too as well. So just more of a note than anything on that.
So by cold storage, you mean like fresh potatoes, carrots, things like that? Or you mean
Frozen cold storage. So this is processed food that gets stored
French
in,
fries.
yeah, and so and it's one company does it basically for all the frozen food that is out there, that is stored in there, and they're stored in huge containers. What they need is cheap land, access to three-phase power, and they put up large facilities that don't need anything else. So that was what this guy was saying. Rural Alberta is set to have these because
Their taxes would be less than in a city.
taxes would be less, and the buildings they're putting up are they're like 5 stories high, and what I gather is it's just large sea cans that go in there, and they stay frozen. So the design of the building used to be flat and spread out, and now they're building up, so with very little environmental impacts. Just a thought.
That's interesting, for sure, yeah. So there's some changes come into the Agri-Invest program, it looks like, especially for larger producers. So is this something that we should be sharing somehow through our media?
The point of adding this Agri-Invest into you guys' correspondence package was to let people know that for large producers, getting an environmental farm plan is a prerequisite to be able to continue investing in Agri-Invest.
See that, so.
So it's like a savings account buffer kind of.
And I was just because Ag Foods came up, that's the reason I brought that up.
So this is just another plug to come to Quinton and Farah's environmental farm plant workshops.
This information has to be shared through our ASB, especially if you're doing more environmental farm plant workshops and that sort of thing. Definitely needs to be shared.
They used to be tied with Growing Forward, didn't they?
Yes.
But there is no more Growing Forward.
This is the new Growing Forward.
Okay.
Okay. Now moving on to 9.6, and I think, oh no, that's different. Oh, that's the Richard Ground School damage one
Yeah.
on page 40, well, whatever page, next page. So they're basically, are they asking for compensation for damage on this one?
They're asking for this study that they partnered with Saskatchewan on. So it was in Willow Creek and then different areas in Saskatchewan to be redone on an Alberta scale, because some of those results seem to be contradictory to what they're seeing in the field.
Okay,
Same study repeated in Alberta,
okay.
water base.
It's interesting.
Is that something that we see a value that we should request, or is it as an ASB board?
I think it falls on deaf ears till we have government change.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I think there's still a window for advocacy. I think there is, the little bit I listened to Minister Segerson speak regarding the use of strychnine for Richard and ground squirrel control, I think there is still a valid push. I didn't think there was before, but I think there may be, I think there may be something now.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, yeah, maybe we should wait on that, so, because I think there is going to be opportunities. So then we'll move on to the Farm Safety Center, annual community update.
So they've changed a bit to the Community of Gadsby seal.
Yeah.
Promotion.
Yes, she sure did, didn't she?
I'm not sure is there a miscommunication there? What is this one? And why is it in our?
Our request and donation of $500. It's farm safety for schools, right? That they do, and typically we used to fund some when they came into our county.
Mountain View was really pushing for this. I know Greg Harris had a discussion with Minister Segerson up the one evening about it, because they do it in a lot of their schools. The thing I'd suggested, and maybe I don't know if these people are falling back to the oil companies, and maybe the oil companies now don't fund things like this. We used to really support it. And
I see this as not oil companies. There he is.
it should be the ag
Like
like
you got Brandt Tractor, who is a huge, right?
and
The John Deeres of the world, the
the fertilizer companies.
the fertilizer companies, right? I mean, they're huge. This is maybe where this money should be.
G3s of the world.
Yeah, no, like honestly, if G3 and the fertilizer plant that we went and saw donated $500, it would be a pittance to them. If Brandt Tractor donated $500, I mean, I don't know, at $70 or $80 a bolt, I'm pretty sure they can come up with one.
The world relied on the oil industry fairly heavily in the past.
Absolutely.
We did, there were, and the majors did sponsor.
And they stood up 100%. The good companies did.
So does anybody know where Jordan Jensen's from?
Raymond,
Raymond?
He's box 291 in Raymond, just saying.
Okay.
back when they were Farm Safety Center,
Oh, there it is.
and I can't remember her name, when she was about to retire, Jordan came with, they presented to the county of Stettler, asking for, well, they did the report and then asked for funding. I can't remember her name. Anyways, he took over as the
New, her.
Yeah.
Executive director.
executive director. Thank you.
So
I'm not sure.
if
We're going to see one more of these letters coming to the county of Stettler. I'm not sure how, it must be an old contact list that.
Yeah, that's all this is. So I think when we get this as a county of Stettler, we'll deal with it all as one.
Okay, and then, so if anybody that funds, do you get a visit to your school, or is that not necessarily so?
In the past, what they've said is it's donate per capita of students within the county of Stettler. And they said, going on last year's numbers, you have this many kids, we recommend you donate this.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they do.
The rotation through the schools that are willing to participate or ask to participate, they will come into those schools on a rotational basis and give a presentation.
Okay, so yeah, we'll deal with that one through council then, it's money. Moving on to the 9.8 is the insect survey maps. So those are good to see. We don't have insect problems in our county.
We have the Canadian cockroach, the maple bug.
Except for, I guess, James's chicken farm.
Chickens don't even eat them. That's how bad they are.
Yeah.
Interesting how the armyworm does have a tendency to be very cyclical, right?
Conditions weren't right for them, I guess. But
And I was surprised at the gopher population or the grasshopper population because of how hot it was, right? Typically, again, hot and dry, you usually get them. Maybe it's too hot and too dry even for them.
For the grasshopper, the fieldmen participate directly in that survey. So in previous administration reports, you've seen pictures of me running a sweep net. So those numbers go into that survey.
Awesome.
well, yeah, I definitely don't need those. I mean, so that's kind of good news. More moisture map updates, which we've reviewed. The 9.10 is the declaration of an agricultural disaster. I think there's a couple of those on the beekeeping. Those are just for information as well, but it's interesting to see how devastating some of the bee honey production was in some of those counties. Down, like the one was up to 90%. So.
Yeah, there's been a few beekeeping or honey supply. There's been a few canola crop reduction issues.
Well, the blossom blast from the heat, I mean, it just destroyed the blossoms. There's nothing. And the beekeepers that have bees on ours were saying, and when that happens, if the blossoms aren't there, then the honeys eat, the bees eat their honey. So it's going backward. Instead of making honey, they're actually consuming honey. So through those periods of time, so the overall production really does go down. And then moving on, I think pretty much all the rest of them are we've involving Bill C-293, which the federal government has before Senate, the pandemic prevention and preparedness, which could have.
Has that not passed third reading already?
I don't think.
Third reading soon. So at the town hall, the provincial committee and the delegate of the ADM were advocating that boards review it and provide input.
Yeah.
Okay, and I
That
maybe
would be why there's-
thought it already had, maybe I just heard that it was in the Senate, but it
It
was,
is in the Senate. It's had 2 readings.
I thought it did have third reading this week, but maybe it's not yet.
So I think this is something we need to do pronto, is to add our name to the list of people or groups that's opposed to this, because it could have devastating effects on agriculture in our province.
So I'm not politically savvy enough to know, but can the Sovereignty Act be used to deal with this one as well?
That I don't know.
I mean, Premier Danielle Smith has come out with the Sovereignty Act to protect our oil and gas industry. is this an option? So could we send a letter to Mr. Cedarson and ask them?
But it's only the price of an email to also send it to the Senate. Try to hit it off, and then we could do that as well.
Yeah, no, I don't see that being a problem either, but I'm just wondering,
It would be a different approach if you sent that style of letter to the Senate, but also to our ag minister.
yeah. Because I think we need to, and I'm tired of being so nice and kind and sending a letter and saying this, but I do think we need to say, listen, you SOBs in Ottawa, you don't care about what goes on in Alberta, well, then we'll just damn well do it ourselves. So I think we need to ask the question, can we use it? And Danielle Smith, let's CC her, because I'll be honest, I'm a little proud of her when she's standing up there doing that, because I'm tired of Ottawa dumping on us.
Okay, so then I'll ask for two motions. I'll ask for a motion to send a letter to the senators in opposition to this bill
Via email,
via email. Yeah,
because Canada Post is on.
yeah, exactly. That's
I'll give you that motion. Or go, Larry can give that motion. whatever.
Yeah, I'll take it from Larry because I got a feeling I'm going to get a motion from you soon. All in favor? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter asking if we can use the Sovereignty Act to, nicely worded, I'm not sure how we put it, use the Sovereignty Act to combat Bill C-9293. Send it to RJ and to Daniel Smith, and courtesy copy all our Ag Service Board people.
And our MLA.
And our MLA, absolutely, yep.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Finance, do you have some updates on
Actually, I'm
that?
going to give you a motion to receive for information all those
Wait, before we leave, yeah,
9.1 to 9.27.
all the correspondence items?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? And that one is carried. Thanks, James. Then finance, did you have any updates for that one, Quentin? Or how
We're
we?
broke, we can't spend any more money, we're done. What he said.
Okay. Well, there's nothing alarming. No, we're not in the red.
No, we're not.
Yeah, received for information, verbal financial. Paul,
I'll do so.
all in favor? Carried. Moving on to 11.1, Brenda Knights Central Region Committee Report. I think that was sent out to all of us. It's page, I guess, is it, oh yeah, here it is. It's in the bottom of your additions package. And I think she reiterates some of the stuff we've already spoke of. Go ahead. Yes, please. Okay, thank you. All in favor? And carried. 12.1, the provincial conference in Edmonton comes up January 20th to 22nd.
Where's it at in Edmonton?
Delta South Conference.
Delta South Conference.
Yeah.
So just to put in the back of your mind now, start thinking about who's attending. I've got hotel rooms set aside. Just start thinking about if you're attending and if you're bringing anybody with you, so I can start registering or getting extra bank of tickets, whatever.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a note? I am so tied to my calendar. Is it possible to add this workshop and events to my calendar? I don't know how difficult that is.
You want everything?
I would like it actually, and then I
You
can,
want when we go attend someone else's workshop?
what we have here,
Because like Stettler Bull Congress, we're gonna have a booth there.
I'd like to know these
These
things.
these ones that you have in your agenda package.
I don't know, I don't know how hard that is for you guys. For me, it's
It's Michelle, but we can look into putting it in. I think I have access.
Direct to do that to your calendars.
I agree 100% on it too, because I live and die by my calendar, and these come and go, and I feel bad that I didn't attend, and But I look at what's on the calendar for the week.
We're not judging.
Can we make that as a
Ending.
a standing order that any of this stuff that gets sent to our calendars? Because I feel inadequate sometimes because I get this and then I forget to put it in my calendar and then I go, shit, I missed that. So
Those are my calendars, so it can't be hard to put it in yours.
I would very much appreciate that. 'Cause I like to be involved in agriculture because I eat a lot.
So, yeah, the workshop's coming up that ASB is involved in, or the Stettler Bull Congress, January 30th to February 2nd. Cultivating Good Health in Ag in Big Valley, January 14th. Tree planting workshop with Joseph Boyzak in February 12th in Boffa. Central Alberta Agronomy Update, February 20th at Stettler Ag Society. Ladies Calving Clinic, a joint one, February 27th in Rumsey. Gardening and Horticulture Workshop, March 13th, Stettler Ag Society. County Fair and Bench Show, July 29th to August 2nd, Stettler Ag. So we need a receiver for information for the conferences and workshops. Anybody? Paul?
I'll do so.
Thank you. All in favor? And carried. There's no in camera. Our next meeting is in 2025 on February
26.
26th, 10 a.m.
So unfortunately, we can't give you the MPC time off either. We had to move them up and down. So,
Yeah. What?
just because people, apparently there's some rule that you have to hear stuff.
Oh, okay. Anyways, we need one final motion.
I'll give you that.
James moves to adjourn.